Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we were discussing the second mantra. Kurvanneva iha karmani jiji vishet shatam samaha evam tvai na anyatha ito asti na karma lipyate nare. Evam tvai nare itaha na anyatha asti yena na karma lipyate. So yesterday, last class, I was trying to explain. So there is something called conditional clause. Like when you say, if you do not brush your teeth, you will get cavities. So if one condition, if you don't brush your teeth, it is in simple present tense, and the second condition also is in simple present tense. Different conditional clauses are there. In Sanskrit, the first condition is normally expressed in what is called the seventh case or the Saptami Vibhakti. That is, Evam Tvai Nare. If you are identifying yourself with this body, then you have to do works. So that becomes the first, and the second condition, inevitable condition follows. The inevitable effect follows. The first will be the cause and the second will be the effect. So this is called Sati Saptami Prayoga in Sanskrit. It's a small grammatical point. It is used in the Saptami Vibhakti, the first condition, in conditional clauses. So it becomes Evam Tvai Nare, Evam Tvai Nanyadhetusti Nakarma Lipyate Nare, Evam Tvai Nare. This is in Saptami. And that means if you identify yourself with this body, then you have to perform works. Na inyatha ito asti. There is no other path open to you other than works. And if you don't identify yourself with the body, like that, the first Lokah applies, Ishavasya Upanishads, that is for you. But as long as you feel the pull of the body and the senses, then you have to do scriptural ordained work you have to do, and that will purify your mind and make you fit for knowledge. Evam Atmavidaha Putradi Shanatraya Sanyasena Atmajnana Nishtadaya Atma Rakshidavya Ityesha Vedartha. So, they are in a nutshell, that is, the previous mantra is being summarized. That you have to give up all types of desire and be Atmajnana Nishtadaya by being established, by sticking to the Atmajnana, by with the full strength or with the full force, you strive for the knowledge of the self. That way, you have to protect yourself. This is the meaning of the first mantra. Adha itarasya anatmajnataya atmagrahanaya ashaktasya idam upadishati mantraha kurvanneva iti. Adha itarasya, for others, anatmajnataya, because they are not knowers of the self, because they do not have the capacity or the maturity to grasp the self. For them, the second verse is given. For them, the second verse is meant for them. Kurvanneva iti, that is the mantra. Kurvanneva iha nirvartayanneva karmani agnihotraadini. By doing all works, like all the rites and rituals that the Vedas have told, or our daily obligatory rites, our own daily works, coupled with the proper attitude, like devotion with the proper attitude of offering them to God, surrendering the results to God, and performing our works. Karmani agnihotraadini jijivishe jivitu vichet shatam shadasankhyaakaha samaha samvatsaran. One should desire to live. That is what jijivishe is an important word here. They say that for the first verse, jijivisha is not there. That is jivitum ichcha, the desire to live. He is satisfied with whatever comes in the course of things. In the course of his life, whatever comes to him, he should be satisfied with it. But if you are succumbing to that jijivisha, if you are saying that I have that desire to live, okay, then there is no other alternative but to do it through works, through proper works. So jijivisha is what is meant here is jijivisha is not there in the first verse. For that person, there need not be any desire to. Means the desire to live is not there. Means he is satisfied with what life brings to him. He should be. That is one sign of a person who has completely surrendered to God. Good or bad, he takes it both. But in the second case, you have to stick to that. If the jijivisha is there, then do it with the proper attitude of work. It should be coupled with the works accompanied by the proper attitude behind it. Kurvanneva jijivishe jivitu vichet shatam shatasankhyaakaha samaha samvatsaran. That he should, for how many years? 100 years. He should desire to live in this world doing works for 100 years. Now this 100 years is why 100 years? That is being explained. Tavat hi purushasya paramayuhu nirupikam. That is ascertained as the paramayuhu of man. That is the age maximum age up to which a man can live is determined in this world as 100 years, not more than that. Tavat hi purushasya paramayuhu nirupidam tadacha praptanuvadena yad jijivishe kshatam varshani tat kurvanneva karmani ityedat vidhiyate. Therefore, from this we understand that what is told here, that 100 years you should desire to live, means that desire for life that is there within you, that you should fulfill that desire by coupling it with proper works, by doing works with the proper attitude. That is the point. Tat kurvanneva karmani itetat vidhiyate. This is the instruction. Evam prakarena tvayi jijivishati hare naramatra abhimani itaha edasmat evam thus evam. That is the second mantra's first word, evam, meaning thus. Thus evam prakarena, this way, tvayi jijivishati nare naramatra abhimanini. So, evam tvayi and the last word is nare. Both are connected. Evam tvayi nare. So, nare is actually seventh case singular. But it has got a certain meaning which is made clear in the commentary, which is naramatra abhimani. For you, oh man, that is the word used. Of you who are the man who has this desire to live. Nara means man. Now the question is, he is the Atman, how can he be called a man? So he identifies with a male body. So he is called, in that sense, he is called a man. Naramatra abhimani. Evam tvayi naramatra abhimanini. Itaha. edasmat agnihotraadini karmani kurvato. Other than this, itaha, other than this, what? What is that other than this? Other than doing works like Agnihotra, etc., or the works that you find yourself placed in, the circumstances in which you find yourself placed in, the circumstances of work or culture you find yourself placed. Other than this, there is no other way. You have to slowly work through your circumstances. By doing works, whatever works you are placed in, by doing those works with the proper attitude, you should try to gradually get out of works and proceed towards Atmajnana. Yena naramatra idaha edasmat agnihotraadini karmani kurvataha. Other than doing Agnihotra works with this proper attitude, Vartamana pragara. In the Vartamana pragara. In the manner that was described. Anyatha pragarantaram nasti, yena pragarena ashubham karma nalipsyate, karmana nalipsyase ityarthaha. Lipsyate is, it is interpreted as other than doing this way, yena pragarena ashubham karma nalipyate. There is no other way by which you can avoid the results of bad works or ashubham karma, undesirable results of works. If you want to avoid the undesirable results of work, you have to work with this proper attitude. Kurvanneva karmani. Adaha shastra vihitani karmani agnihotraadini kurvanneva jijivishe. Therefore, you should perform, you should desire to live. How? By doing the scripturally ordained works like Agnihotra, etc. Kadam punaridam avagamyade purvena mantrena sannyasino jnana nishtha uktaha dvidiyena tadashaktasya karma nishtha. Now they are making it clear. How this, that is the first mantra, this is Shankara's position. The first mantra is for the sannyasi, for the Aishanatrayas who has given up all three types of desires, and the second mantra is for that person who is incapable of doing that. In the present moment, his ideal is that, but at the present moment, he is incapable of doing that. So, the Dvitiya mantra is meant for a different adhikari. The first mantra is one who is capable of doing this. The second mantra is for one who is incapable of doing it. Uchyade, that is being explained. Jnana karmanor virodham parabadavat agambhyam yadhoktam nasmarasikim. That is, the point that is made here is that in the Atman there is no works. This has to be made clear from the beginning. That what they told, that the philosophical difference between the Mimamsakas, the ritualists, and those who uphold the knowledge of the self. According to the ritualists, there is nothing like the Atman is always associated with ignorance. There is nothing like Atmajnana. You go on doing works, and the Atman, the self or the Atman becomes relevant only as long as you are doing works. Diverse from works, the self will always remain covered with ignorance. I discussed it in a previous class, the two views of Kumarila Bhatta and Prabhagara. Both of them hold that Atman is always associated with Ajnana. And all efforts to remove this Ajnana is futile. It is not there. It is, you reconcile yourself with that fact or truth, that the Atman is always associated with Ajnana. But the Vedantin know you have to remove that Ajnana. That is the purpose of life. So that is what is told here, and that is what is meant here, that jnana karmanor virodham. That jnana and karma can only be there when you have got ajnana. Ajnana is the basic. If ajnana is there, then only karma happens. But because what is karma? Karma is the adhyasa of what is called adhyasa of kartrutva. Karma is there when you feel I am the karta, I am incomplete, I have to do something to become complete. This is the basic presumption of work. I am incomplete, but at the same time, then how can I become complete? I will do something and thus I will become complete. This is, Vedanta says that this is wrong. And this is the virodha, that when you are complete, that when you feel you are complete, you don't have to do anything. You are complete. Doing anything does not make, doing or not doing anything will not make any difference to your innate state of perfection when you are established in the state of perfection. But when you feel you are incomplete, then you have to do work. So in one person, both cannot be there. That the desire to do because of incompleteness and the feeling of completeness. These cannot be there in the same person at the same time. In different times it may be there. A person may be feeling incomplete now. He may be doing works with the proper attitude. Then after eventually he will become the feeling of completeness or perfection or surrender to God. Everything may come to him. But at the same time, both cannot be there in the same person. That is what is called Jnana-Karmanor Virodham. Jnana-Karmanor Virodham Parvatavat Akamtyam. It is immovable like the mountain. This contradiction between Jnana and Karma. Yadhoktam nasvarsikim vihapi yuktam yogi jiji vishetsa karma kuruvan. Here also it is told, he who desires to live, he should do so by doing works. Ishavasya idam sarvam tena tektena bunjita magrataha kasya siddhanam iticha. And that was told in reference to the first mantra. That is, cover everything with God. Try to, that God is present inside everybody, in your heart as well as in the heart of everybody. Thus you should cover everything. So both shows the virodha. That is, the one is meant for the jnani, other is meant for the karmi, who has got this feeling of, is incapable of having this vision now, but who has got that ideal as the supreme purpose of his life and thus performs work. Now another example is given, from another text, an example is given. Na jivite marane va gridim kurvita. One should not have any anxiety for either life or death. This is what I told, that in the first mantra, this jiti visha, desire to live, is not there. That is how, this is that from the ideal point of view, this mantra is being interpreted. Now, out of the sannyasis, only perhaps 1%, it may be there or not, we do not know. But the ideal is that even the jiji visha is given up, even the desire to live is not there in that adhikari, of the first mantra. Na jivite marane vabi va gridhim kurvita. One should not desire either, there should be no gridhi or anxiety as with regard to either life or death. Next is aranya niyat iticha padam. He should go to a forest. That is, in forest there is no work, so you should, like that it is told here, you should completely retire from all kinds of works. Aranya niyat iticha padam. Tadona punariyati sannyasa shasanatha. And after going to the forest, you should not return. Again, here it is told, aranyam. What is aranyam? It is told here in the Tika, it is told that in a place where you do not have, you should stay in a place where you do not have the presence of the opposite sex. This is what is meant here. If a woman has got this idea, she should stay in a place where women are there, and if men are there, they should stay in a place where only men will be there. That is the point. Dichapadam tado na pudaliyat iti sannyasa shasanat ubayoho phalavegam chavakshyati. And the results also are different. Now this is told, the vidhi is told, one should do works, the other should retire from works, one other should resort to the vision of the Supreme Truth. Now, the result of this, what is the result of these two things? That is being told. Imau dvaveva dvau eva panthanau anunishkrantatarau bhavataha kriyapadashchaiva purastat sannyasascha uttarena nivritti margena eshanatrayasya tyagaha. Two paths have been told. Panthanau, at the beginning of creation, anunishkrantatarau. Two paths have emerged at the beginning of creation. What are these two paths? Kriya Padashchaiva Purastat. First came the Kriya Patha, the path of action. And second is Sannyasascha Uttarena. Nivritti Margaha Eshana Trayasya Tyagaha. This is a quotation from another text, perhaps Mahabharata, that there are two paths, so these two are distinct paths meant for different persons according to their mental constitution. Tayoho Sannyasa Patha Eva Adhirichyate. Of these two, the path of sannyasa is superior. Why it is superior? Because, now what Swamiji says, renunciation and service are the two national ideals of India. Intensify her in those two channels and everything will take care of itself. So, renunciation is not meant for sannyasis only. Others also should have the ideal of sannyasa. But from the ideal, from the goal point of view, from the purpose, supreme purpose point of view, from the ideal point of view, it is told that sannyasa is superior. Because karma will ultimately should lead to tyaga. That is the point. That is the idea behind it. Sannyasa padha eva atirichyate. Nyasa eva atyarejayat iti cha taitiriyate. Nyasa. Renunciation is better. It is told in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Dvavimau vadapanthano yatra veda pradishtita pravritti lakshano dharmo nivrittischa vibhavitaha ityadi putraya vicharya nishchita muktam vyasena vedacharyena bhagavata vibhagam cha anayoho darshayishyamaha. So, two paths are there on which the Vedas are established. What are they? Pravritti lakshano dharmo. The dharma characterized by pravritti or work. Nivrittishcha vibhavitaha. And the other is the nivritti marga. So these two paths are there. Iti putraya vicharya nishchita muktam vyasena vedacharyena bhagavata. This is how Vyasa advised his son in the. This is told as another example of these two paths. That the first mantra and the second mantra are two distinct paths proceeding to the same goal. Vibhagam chaneyoho darshayishyamaha. And we will show the difference as they come. That how these two paths differ from each other. So the second mantra is over. Kurvanneveha karmani jijivishet shadam samaha evam tvai na anyatha itaha asti na karma lipyate narai. You should kurvanneva iha karmani, doing work so alone in this world, you should jijivishet. desire to live in this world. Evam Tvayi Nare. Thus for you who is thus identified with this male or female body, na itaha anyatha na asti. Other than this path of scripturally ordained work done with a proper attitude, na anyatha itaha asti. Yatha yena karma nalipyate. There is no other way by which work will not taint you. If you don't want work to taint you, then the only option available to you is to do work with the proper attitude. Now we come to the third verse. Asuriya namate loka andhena tamasa avritaha tanste pretya abhigachanti yeke cha atmahano janaha. Now, the third verse is starting. I will read the Anvayartha, then we can see the meaning. E mantre avidvaner ninda kara hoyache. Asuriyaha nama. Asuradike avasa bhut. That is the meaning. Asuriya nama. Jekane Asuradik was करे. But here one thing should be understood. It will be told here that Asura means Devas also. It is not that it is meant for the demonic persons also. It is meant. He who is attached to life, whoever, whether it be Devas or Asuras, for both of them this mantra is meant. Asuriyaha Asuradike avasabhut te lokaha Asurya nama te lokaha andhena tamasa avrataha. Ajnana andhena adarshanaatmak tamasa ajnana andhagare avrataha achadi yekecha atmahanaha atmaghati avidva. So atmaghanaha means Atmaghati avidva. They are suicides. The literal meaning is suicides. Je atma ke hanan kore. Kintu literal meaning noy ekhane uddeshyo korche jade avidya dosh ache. Atmahanaha janaha te pretya dehatya koriya tan se sakal loke abhigachanti. Asuriya nama te lokaha andhena tamasa avrataha. All those worlds are called Asuriya. Why? Because it is covered by the darkness of ignorance. Ye kecha atmahana. Those who are suicides, those who are got the dosha of avidya, they are suicides. Because why are they suicides? Because the effect of Atman is what? Ajara amaratva adi lakshana. That it has got no decay, decrepitude or death. Though the Atman is like that, we are not aware of it because of avidya dosha. So because of this, they are told they are Atmahanas, they are suicides. Because they do not strive for this awareness of the immortality of the Atman. Atmahanaha janaha te pretya. After death, tan abhivachanti. They go to those worlds. Asuradikir avasabhut se sagal lok. Drishti pradirodhak ajnana andhagare achadika. से सकल लोक. लोक बोला हो पे लोक माने जन्म. Asuriya namate lokaha, worlds. But the real meaning is janmas, births. Because the lok word has come from luchyante, drishyante. bhujyante. That which is experienced, that which is enjoyed. What is worlds? Worlds are that in which we experience things. So, what it means is, what is experienced? Lokah means that which is experienced, that which is enjoyed. And what is enjoyed? Our births, as a result of different karmas, the different births that we get. That is meant by the word Lokah. Say Sakal Lok Drishti Pratirogatak Ajnana Andhakare Achadit. What is meant here is, if we strive for this knowledge, then with alertness, then even if we do not get the final knowledge and die, that awareness, that alertness or that awareness will always be with us. And it is told in the Gita that a person who has strived even a little, who has struggled even a little in spiritual life, when he gets future births, he is born in such circumstances where he can continue with that, where he left off. So whatever he has done, nothing is lost to him. This is a very important point that is made in the scriptures. So that is what Asurya Namate. But on the other hand, the other side of the picture is presented here. A person who has not at all strived for this knowledge, what happens to him, what circumstances he is born in, we cannot say. And there is the possibility of that lack of awareness being a part of his personality even in the future births. So you do not know. That is why it is told in the Vaishnava scriptures and all that taking the name of the Lord is like planting a seed. You do not know when it will sprout. So this memory of perfection is something which is very, very important in spiritual life. And that is implied by the use of the word Lokah. That Lokah is interpreted as Janmah. That is, whatever births he is born in, this Ajnana Andhakara will pursue him. That is the point. See, Lokah Drishti Pratirodhak Ajnana Andhakare Achadit. Je Sakal Manav Atmaghati Tahara Sakalei Dehatya Koriya. Say Sakal Loke Gaman Kore. So, this is the third verse. Tan te pretya, after death. That is the meaning. Pretya means giving up this body. Preta, we say. So, pretya means pra-eti. Pra-it gatau, there is one dhatu. So, pra-etya. So, after giving up this body, abhigachanti. They go to those worlds that are filled with darkness. What is those worlds? What is those Janmas? That is described in the first half of the verse, which is Asurya Namate Lokah Andhena Tamasavurataha. Tan, te pretya, tan, these worlds, these people who do not pursue both these paths. Te pretya abhigachanti. They find themselves in such worlds that is covered with darkness of ignorance. Yeke, who are they? Atmahanah janaha. They are those who are suicides, those who have not strived for perfection, those who are not awake to the possibility of this perfection. That Swamiji is describing this very beautifully. It will be apt to describe it here. What Swamiji is telling about this third verse, in fact, it is one of the most inspiring verses, portions of the complete works of that, what is called the Jnana Yoga text, what Swamiji is telling. So, both the second and the third verse, what Swamiji says can be told here. Deifying all your earthly desires, desire to live a long life of helpfulness, of blissfulness and activity on this earth. of helpfulness, of blissfulness and activity on this earth. Thus working, you will find the way out. There is no other way. We should then, Swamiji says, we should avoid the two mistakes at either end. One, plunging into foolish luxuries without knowing truth. And what is the other extreme? Cursing the world, going to the forest, mortifying the flesh, or saying that no, I don't want anything of this world. You just give up births before you have reached the maturity for it. So both these extremes are to be avoided. Kills himself little by little. That's the second extreme. Curses the world, goes to the forest, mortifies his flesh, means punishes himself, punishes his body, like that. Kills himself little by little. These are the two extremes. These are to be avoided. So work, says the Vedanta, putting God in everything and knowing Him to be in everything. God is in everything. Where else shall we go to find Him? He is already in every work, in every thought, in every feeling. So God is in everything. He is present in every work, in every thought, in every feeling. Thus knowing, we must work. Open to that possibility, we must work, that God is present in us, He is guiding us, He is present in our thoughts. With this attitude we should work. This is the only way, there is no other way. Thus the effects of work will not bind us. Thus false desires, the cause of all miseries and evils we suffer, being deified and purified through God. Thus false desires, the cause of all miseries and evils we suffer, being deified and purified through God, can bring no more evil or misery. Therefore, they will not bring evil or misery. Now, this is the end of the second verse. Now, the third verse he is telling, Asurya nama te Lokah. Many do not know what an infinite mine of bliss is in them, around them everywhere. They have not yet discovered it. What is a demoniacal world? The Vedanta says ignorance. Now, what is that? What is this Asurya Nama? How does Swamiji interpret it? That there is an infinite mine of bliss. Mine is M-I-N-E, mine, khani. There is an infinite mine of bliss within us. But we do not open ourselves, but we think we have closed ourselves to the possibility of its manifestation. This is ignorance. This is what is meant by the demoniacal world, that Asurya Nama Lokah. What does it mean? That you have closed yourself to the possibility of that infinite mine of bliss that is present within us. Swamiji gives another example also, that a person is sitting near the river and he is going on digging the river, going on digging on the surface to find water. Like that, the infinite mine of bliss is within us, but still we go on searching in vain outside through all kinds of foolish activities for this bliss. And that is what is meant by a demoniacal world. Swamiji says again, he says another thing. Now, how do you convert this? For instance, we should never let go of the ideal. This is another very important point that Swamiji makes here. The ideal, for instance, it may be very difficult, but we should have that ideal. And it is as important as any other thing in life. We need money, we need work, we need food, we need a house. All like that we require an ideal also. This is and that is highlighted by this verse. Now Swamiji gives an example, a worm is crawling, and then now that ideal you may think, the worm is crawling on the ground, but the sky is so far above it. Like that, the ideal is so far above and impractical. What is the use of such an ideal? But Swamiji says no, one should have an ideal, because if a man with an ideal makes 50 mistakes, a man without an ideal will make will make 50,000 mistakes. And so he's giving 2 examples of how difficult it is. 2 examples are given. One person is following it from his childhood, that I should see God in everything. Then suddenly he is going through a street, another stronger person comes and pushes him, and suddenly he clenches his fist and is going to hit him. He forgets the ideal. Yes, it is difficult, Swamiji is telling. Another example Swamiji is giving of a stag. It is in Aesop's fables. I have not read it, Swamiji is telling it, that what deer or a stag, it is some kind of a deer, so that stag is looking at its reflection in the water and is admiring its strength and physique. How beautiful I am, all this thing, it is how strong and beautiful I am, how strong my muscles are. It is thinking of Atma Prashamsa is coming. Then suddenly it hears the barking of some dogs and it forgets everything and runs away. Then that child or that cub, the small stag, its child, that tells its mother, that stag who was telling this to itself, asks the stag, you were just now telling that you are so strong and about your own perfection you were telling. Then, but the moment you heard the dog bark, you ran away. It is yes, when I hear the dog bark, I forget everything and run away. So, what the point made here is, it is that ideal, we tend to forget the ideal. It is very difficult. It is easy to talk about it. But when trials and tribulations come, almost 99% of us forget about it. But even in spite of this, we should keep the ideal. We should have the ideal. This is Swamiji's main point. This is the main point made by Swamiji here. We think highly of humanity. We feel ourselves strong and valiant. We make grand resolves. But when the dogs of trial and temptation bark, we are like the stag in the fable. Then if such is the case, what is the use of teaching all these things? There is the greatest use. The use is this, that perseverance will finally conquer. Nothing can be done in a day. That is the main thing. Perseverance will finally conquer. That is, you should have the ideal and you should persevere to hold on to the ideal. Why? Because one day perseverance will win, will finally conquer. Nothing can be done in a day. Now Swami is telling how to get out of this demoniacal world. So this is the connection between the previous verse and this verse. You don't have the ideal. This is what is happening. You will be born in circumstances where you do not have any possibility of remembering the ideal. On the other hand, if you stick on to the ideal, however difficult it may be, that perseverance will let you conquer the obstacles to the assimilation of these thoughts. Whatever obstacles are there to assimilating the thoughts of the Atman or the Atmachintan, whatever obstacles are there, that will be conquered in the course of time. So it is important to stick to the ideal. And how to get out of this demoniacal world? The self is first to be heard, then to be thought upon, and then meditated upon. Everyone can see the sky. Even the very worm crawling upon the earth sees the blue sky, but how very far away it is. So it is with our ideal. It is far away, no doubt, but at the same time, we know that we must have it. We must have the ideal. We must even have the highest ideal. We must even have the highest ideal. Just like we have everything in life, we must even have the highest ideal. Unfortunately, in this life, the vast majority of persons are groping through this dark life without any ideal at all. That is Asuriya Nama. That the vast majority of people in this world are groping without an ideal. Groping in this world without an ideal. And that is what is meant here by that demoniacal world. If a man with an ideal makes 1,000 mistakes, I am sure that the man without an ideal makes 50,000. Therefore, it is better to have an ideal. And this ideal we must hear about as much as we can. So this is the most important part of Swamiji's sentence. Therefore, it is better to have an ideal. And this ideal we must hear about as much as we can. And this ideal we must hear about as much as we can, till it enters into our hearts, into our brains, into our very veins, until it tingles in every drop of our blood and permeates every pore in our body. We must meditate upon it. So this is how we get out of this demoniacal world. To have an ideal, that meditate on it till it enters into our hearts, into our brains, into our very veins, until it tingles in every drop of our blood and permeates every pore in our body. We must meditate upon it. Out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks, and out of the fullness of the heart, the hand works too. It is thought which is the propelling force in us. Fill the mind with the highest thoughts, hear them day after day, think them month after month. Never mind failures, they are quite natural. They are the beauty of life, these failures. That is what. The ideal is there, we may fall, we may forget it for a moment, and we may commit some tremendous mistakes. But the next moment, we should have the guts to take up the ideal again. This is the gist of what Swamiji is telling. They are the beauty of life, these failures. What would life be without them? It would not be worth having it if it were not for struggles. Where would be the poetry of life? Never mind the struggles, the mistakes. I never heard a cow tell a lie, but it is only a cow, never a man. So never mind these failures, these little backslidings. Hold the ideal 1,000 times. And if you fail 1,000 times, make the attempt once more. The ideal of man is to see God in everything. But if you cannot see Him in everything, see Him in one thing, in that one thing which you like best, and then see Him in another. So on you can go. There is infinite life before the soul. Take your time and you will achieve your end. So Swamiji is telling here, in the first verse, ideal of man is to see God in everything. But if you cannot see Him in everything, he's coming to the second verse. This is a new thing, a new interpretation is coming that we do not get from the Bhashya. Some implications Swamiji is giving here. So if you cannot see Him in everything, see Him in one thing, in that thing which you like best, and then see Him in another. So you can go. There is infinite life before the soul. Take your time and you will achieve your end. So see Him in one thing, in that thing which you like best. With reference to this one small parable of Sri Ramakrishna can be, not parable, small incident in Sri Ramakrishna's life can be told. Now, there was a widow who was very devoted to Sri Ramakrishna and was coming and seeing him, sitting, hearing his talks and all. Then one day, she was thinking of something. Then Thakur asked her, "What are you thinking about?" Then she opened her heart and told that whenever she sits for meditating on her Ishta, suddenly the thought of her niece, nephew comes to her. A small child is there who she loves very much, who the child also loves her in turn. So the thought of her nephew comes to her mind, and because of that, that is acting as an obstruction to her meditation. Then Thakur immediately says, "Don't you think of her as your Ishta. You think of that small child. That is your path. You think of it that way. Think of that small child of your nephew as your Ishta." And then her whole attitude, this sentence of Thakur gives a fillip to her spiritual life. She when she meditates, when meditating, when this boy's image is coming, she is not anymore thinking that it's an obstruction. She is meditating on that itself as a rishta. And when she opens her eyes and when she is loving this child or dressing him up or waking him up, she is thinking of this child as a rishta. And thus, she has the vision of what is called the Saguna Brahman, of vision of God in this child in a very short period. So this is the point made here. Swami is making this point here. If you cannot see him in everything, see him in one thing. In that thing which you like best, and then see him in another. So it is very practical advice that is told here. So now this is the end of the second verse. The third verse. Now the commentary can be read here, Shankara's commentary. Adha idani avidvan nindartoyam mantraha arabhyate. This mantra is told to do the ninda. Ninda means what? It is actually sensual. Ninda means sensual. So this mantra is told, the purport of this mantra is the sensual of avidvan, of those who do not know the nature of the truth. That it is such a bad thing to not know the self, to not be aware of the self is a bad thing. This is being highlighted by this mantra. And the implication already, we have to come to what Swamiji says, that to forget the ideal. As we want so many things in life, we must also have the ideal. We should not close ourselves to the possibility of the manifestation of the ideal. This is the main important point made here. Adha idanim avidvan nindartoyam mantraha arabhyate. That censure of the avidvan is made here. Asuryaha paramatma bhavam ubhayam abhekshya. Paramatma bhavam advayam apekshya devadayo api asuraha. Tesham cha swabhuta loka asurya nama. So first thing is Asurya means demoniacal. But the meaning that is meant here is not just demons. Gods are also included. Because why? Because if the Devas do not have the Paramatma Bhava of the non-dual and they are not aware of their own supreme self or the non-dual supreme self, then they are also demons. There is nothing to choose between demons and gods. They can all be clubbed together. Whether they be man, god, demons, etc., all of them are put in one group here. Those who do not know the self and those who know the self are different from them. Paramatma bhavam advayam abhikshya devadayo api asuraha tesham cha swabhuta loka suryanama. So the gods' worlds are called. So the funny thing is all these sacrifices are done to go to heaven. And Shankara is giving the interpretation that they are not heaven, they are Asurya-nama, they are hells. Because if you do not have the memory of your real nature, even heavens are hells. Nama shabdo anarthako nipadha. Te lokaha karma phalani. Now the meaning of the word loka is explained here. Te lokaha karma phalani lokyande drishyande bhujyande iti janmani. Why are they called lokaha? Because the results of works, karma phalani, lokyante, drishyante, bhujyante iti. Because the results of works are enjoyed, results of actions are enjoyed, are experienced. Therefore, they are called lokas. Wherever the results of works are enjoyed or experienced, they are called Lokah. And what are they experienced with? Births, different births that you take after you die. So they are the Lokas that are meant here. So Lokah means Janmani, the different births. Andhena adarshanatmaga adarshanatmagena ajnanena tamasa avrita. Adarshanatmagena ajnanena. So darshanatmaga ajnana can be there and adarshanatmaga ajnana is there. Now when you do works with a proper attitude, that there also ajnana is there. But it is darshanatmaga ajnana. You have got an ideal. What Swamiji says, don't forget the ideal. Always keep the ideal in your mind. That is darshanatmaga ajnana. But this is andhena tamasa, where you have closed yourself to the possibility of the ideal. So that is what is meant here. Te logaha andhena adarshanatmagena ajnanena tamasa avrita achadida, covered. Darkness is covered. It is not, it is only a covering. Inside is the real nature, and darkness, it is not the real nature of the thing. Darkness is always only a covering. Tan stavarantan pretya. Tan means tan janmani. Tan lokan. Stavarantan. What are they? Stavarantan. Moving and non-moving creatures that you are born as. You are born as devas, or if your karma is so bad, you can also be born as something very bad, as a tree or something. Tan stavarantan pretya. Tyaktva imam deham. Pretya means tyaktva imam deham. After giving up this body, abhigachanti. How? Yatha-Karma-Yatha-Shrutam. It is a I think it is Kathopanishad. It is told how, what is the criterion that determines how you take birth, how after you die, how do you take future births? What factor decides on your future births? And that is called Yatha-Karma-Yatha-Shrutam. As your works were, as your meditations were, so will be your future births. Yatha-Karma is as your works were. And Shrutam means as your meditation was, as your Upasana was. So that is what is meant. This is the factor that determines your future births. Yatha-Karma-Yatha-Shrutam. Yeke cha Atmahanah. Who are they? They are Atmahanah. Atmanam dhanti iti Atmahanah. Who is Atmahanah? Those who kill themselves. This is the literal meaning. Now this is explained. How it is Atmani Paditvadi Adhyasavantaha Tadrasa Adhyasobi Anananeva. He who thinks of himself as Papi, as a Karta, all these things, Ashuddha, all these things is Anana. That is what. You reconcile yourself to your inferior immoral status. No. I will struggle to get out of this imperfection or inferior condition that I find myself in. That is the opposite to this Atmahanah. So Atmanah Granti iti Atmahanah. Kete janaha ye avidvansaha. Who are they? Those who do not know the nature of the truth. Who kadante Atmanam nityam himsati. How do they destroy the Atman? How do they continuously destroy the Atman? This is told here. Avidya doshena vidyamanasya atmanaha tiraskarana. Through the dosha, through the imperfection of avidya, ignorance, what happens? You turn your back to the vidyamanasya atmanaha tiraskarana. You turn your back to the Atman which is always present. Because of the dosha called avidya. This is Atmahanah. That is the effect of the, you are not open to the possibility of the immortal Atman. You turn your back to it, and this is Atmahanah. Vidyamanasya Atmano yat karyam phalam ajara amarattvadi samvedana lakshanam tad hadasya iva tirobhutam bhavati iti prakrita avidvamso jana atmahana uchyante. Why they are called Atman? Vidyamanasya atmanaha yat phalam. If the Atman's phala, that if that Atman is ajara and amara, and so when you become aware of the Atman, then ajaratva and amaratva, that of being beyond decrepitude and death, immortality, you will become aware of that also. So when you are turning your back to the Atman, you are turning back to the properties of the Atman also. And what are those properties? That is being beyond decrepitude and being immortal. You are turning your back to that also. So that phala also you will not get. That is that awareness of ajaratva and amaratva. You turn your back to it, and therefore you are called a Atmahanah. You are called a suicide. Vidyamanasya atmano yat karyam phalam ajara amaratvadi samvedana lakshanam. That is the thing. Ajara amaratvadi samvedana lakshanam. That awareness should be there. That it is characterized by that awareness of I am immortal, I am beyond decay and decrepitude. If you don't have that, you are not striving for that. Therefore, you are a suicide. So it's essential. You should strive. So what does it mean? It means you should strive for that. You should strive for the ajaratva and amaratva samvedana of the Atman. Phalam ajara amaratvadi samvedana lakshanam tad hadasya iva tirobhutam bhavati. That tirobhutam bhavati, that becomes obstructed as if it is as if for one who has been killed. A man who is killed, he is not aware of this body or anything in his again. That connection is gone with this body. So, like that, a man who is not aware of this Atmahanah that is meant in this verse, he does not become aware of the Ajara, Amaratva, etc. of the Atman. Therefore, he is called a suicide. Samveda lakshanam tad hadasya iva tirobhutam bhavati iti pragrita avidvamso janaha atmahana uchyate. Therefore, all these crude people without the knowledge of reality are called suicides. Tena hi atmahanana doshena samsarante. Through this dosha through this evil of Atmahanana, they samsaranti. They move from one birth to another. They are born, they live, they die, they are again born, they live, they die. And everywhere they are close to the possibility of the manifestation of the Atman. So how to change it? You can change it this very moment by striving for the perfection of the Atman, by thinking that the Atman is there, that perfection is there within you. This moment, that truth is there within me, this moment, that nobody is separate from it. It is very much present in me and striving for its awareness. So that way, you can get out of this Asuriya Lokah also, of this demoniacal world or Janmah. I think that will be, we will discuss the next verse in the next class. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.